All right, everybody, thank you for your patience. We're going to go ahead and get started with the Sol-Ark 101 overview training. We're going to go for about an hour here, at which point we will have an open Q&A for you guys to ask any questions that maybe didn't get answered over the course of the presentation. In addition, we do have a chat feature here with the webinar platform that we're using, the Zoho webinar platform. So if you do have any questions, I do have one of my colleagues, Puya Fifian, on to answer any of those questions as they come. So don't be shy as those questions come up. Feel free to use that Q&A chat feature to get a quicker response on those. But if you think it's something that's better handled in the open Q&A format, feel free to hold on to that question until the end, and we'll give you the opportunity to ask any questions that you do have. So we're going to go for about an hour today. We're just going to give an overview of the Sol-Ark inverter, why we believe it is the best energy storage solution on the marketplace currently, and then we'll just talk real briefly about the inner workings of the unit and installation. So like I said, scheduled for an hour here, and then we are going to have that open Q&A, and we'll go there as long as is needed to get you guys the answers that you want. My name is Dylan Rupp here, and like I mentioned, I have my colleague Puya, who is not pictured on this slide, available for that chat feature. But these are just some of the other names that you might see as you go through some of our webinars here. If you've attended one in the past, or if you plan on attending some of our webinars in the coming months. So when our founders started out building an inverter, they really put together a wish list, things that they wanted to see in an inverter. They were unable to find one that kind of met all these requirements out on the marketplace as it was. So the team of engineers with significant experience in the industry, they decided they were going to build their own, and they wanted to go ahead and address a number of issues that they had kind of identified with inverters on the marketplace. So they put together this wish list. So they wanted to build an inverter that would save time and money, make installers look fantastic by being extremely versatile, being able to meet a array of different interconnection types. So whether that be grid tied, AC coupled, or DC coupled, bringing in the solar. They wanted to build an inverter that could back up either a whole home or an off-grid home to function totally off-grid. They wanted to build an extremely reliable inverter that would remove the need for installers to constantly be at your house, troubleshooting and figuring out what was going on by having a world-class customer service team full of US-based engineers answering phone calls 7 days a week. And then also give the customer the peace of mind with a 10-year industry-leading warranty on that inverter. And then finally, they did want to provide the free monitoring with fleet management for installers, which will provide those installers complete remote capability to get into an inverter, see what's going on, hopefully resolve any issues without actually having to make it to site and to actually take the time to drive over there. So like I mentioned, the company was founded in 2013 by a team of engineers, 3 full-time engineers and 2 contract engineers, plus 2 US veteran investors. And that team was able to bring over 150 years of combined experience in the solar plus storage marketplace right at founding there. Originally, we started out building extremely small inverters that were designed for portable off-grid type of applications. That's the original name of the company, Portable Solar LLC. However, as we continued to grow and build a better inverter and become known for that inverter, we did make the decision to change the business name to Sol-Ark, the name of that inverter. And in 2017, we were able to develop what at that time was our flagship inverter, the Sol-Ark 8K. Moving on into 2018, we did refine the 8K with further integration of the unit, and then we added a team of Texas-based engineering support as well as Texas-based repairs, where anybody that did have an issue requiring an inverter to be repaired, all that work would be done right here locally at our North Texas headquarters. In 2019, we rolled out our current flagship inverter model, the Sol-Ark 12K. In addition to the rollout of that inverter, we did start to bring in major financing groups for Sol-Ark installers in order to allow the common family to achieve the goal of energy security and backup in the event of grid failure. So that was a huge win for our company and something that is going to help or is helping us drive towards our goal of achieving energy stability for families all over the country. That's kind of why we do what we do. Getting into 2020, we started to develop strategic partnerships with a number of battery companies and distribution companies. And then we started designing 4 new products that are continuing to allow our company to grow at kind of the rapid pace that we've seen over the last 7 to 8 years. And moving into this year, we are currently working on a 75,000 square foot engineering and assembly facility. And then, like I just mentioned, the design of those 4 new products are going to start rolling into the launch of those products. So certainly none of those products have been revealed as of yet. There are some hints and clues out there, so you can kind of get an idea of some of the things that we are looking at developing and bringing to the marketplace here in the very near future. But what I'll say is certainly keep in touch with us, sign up for our newsletter, and you'll be kind of the first to know about those new products as they are developed and launched. So it's really exciting time for our company. You can see here that we've grown extremely quickly, but we've been able to do so with a really strong team and keeping our debt levels very low to continue to provide a peace of mind for our installers that this company is going to be around for the long haul. As I mentioned, some of those different financing partners that we do have here is a list, but again, this is just going to help our installers out in the field enable projects to get completed for the common American middle class family that's looking to have that energy security. So something that we were extremely excited to bring to the table and continue to leverage to bring Sol-Arks into customers' homes. So as we kind of have talked about, we have a number of different applications that we are able to meet. And again, kind of going back to our roots here, the first thing that we did want to achieve would be off-grid applications. So enabling our customers to totally disconnect from a utility and still have that energy security and reliability that they're used to. And in a lot of cases, we're actually seeing even better reliability than they're used to. So one of the big projects that we did win was the Navajo tribal utility, bringing in over 500 homes totally off grid using our inverter with reliable, safe, clean energy for those tribes. And then one of our partners here, Beam Global, again, utilizing our inverter, and you can kind of see the photo here on the far right, using our inverter for off grid applications for car charging and other applications. So a really exciting partnership that we do have with Beam, and then something that I suggest you guys continue to keep your eye on as they continue to grow and develop really cool, exciting solutions to a lot of the energy challenges that face our country currently. We take our customer service extremely, extremely seriously here at Sol-Ark. It's one of the foundational elements of our company. I mentioned already bringing energy security to the middle class family around the country is kind of one of our main pillars. But one of the things that we see foundationally to support that is having best in class customer service. And I think that this graphic here from Energy Sage kind of displays how seriously we do take that customer service. You can see these are all organic reviews. We're not going out and prodding people and saying, hey, we'll give you a discount if you give us a good review or anything of that nature. These are all totally organic reviews from our customers who are just extremely happy with the systems and the solutions that we've been able to implement for them. So we are rated as the top inverter manufacturer as far as customer satisfaction, according to Energy Sage, which is kind of an authority on different solar plus storage companies. And you can see there, this is not a 1 or 2 review type situation. We've got, at the time of this graphic, 43 5-star reviews. If you go look now, that's up over 50 5-star reviews. And you can see it's pretty clear there that as far as companies that are having a pretty significant number of reviews, 5 stars is far and away the best. And the only other competitors there are in that situation where they only have 1 or 2 reviews on Energy Sage. So again, one of the foundational elements, and I'll continue to stress this over the course of the presentation, is going to be our customer service and how seriously we take that, both for our installers and for our residential customers as the end user of the system. And again, just continuing to hammer that point home, it's kind of all about you guys as the installers and you guys as the homeowner. So as the installer, the business developer, right, we're going to enable you to sell more deals to more prospects by being extremely versatile and being able to meet a number of different challenges and required solutions from the customer, which is going to give you the confidence to kind of sell and design wherever you need to. We've got all the certifications. And again, we're extremely versatile, can step up to meet the challenge on most of the types of retrofits that you can throw our way. We're going to have access, or you're going to have access to our 7-day-a-week engineering support. Again, based right here in our North Texas headquarters. And I can tell you that it's true 7-day support. You can call somebody Saturday at 1 p.m. and get somebody on the line. I did it last weekend, so certainly, hopefully, we'll have the chance to talk to you guys and resolve issues for you whenever they arise. We're more than available, which of course will give both you and your customers peace of mind, lower the cost of the installation, and provide greater value by limiting the truck rolls and limiting equipment replacements that may come up. And then just kind of parlaying that into what that does for the customer. So it makes solar plus storage affordable, truly affordable for most families in the country. Extremely powerful, meaning either backing up a whole home or most of the home as in a critical loads panel type of situation. So they're going to have power to the loads when they need it. We've already mentioned that 10-year warranty, and then just exceptional reliability with that military tough mindset that we kind of have carried through our company's growth due to our U.S. veteran investors and engineers that originally started the company. And then finally, we're going to protect their money by protecting their appliances that they've sunk such a cost into by having an extremely fast transfer time, so they're not going to have power glitches at those devices. And then we also offer a number of other options with our inverter that will protect that equipment in the event of other types of grid abnormalities. So here is our inverter. Some of the different approved pieces of equipment with that inverter. Of course, rapid shutdown being a very important piece of equipment that the NEC is now requiring for any state using NEC 2017 and onward. And then our batteries, we can work with any 48-volt solution, whether that be lithium-ion chemistry, a lead-acid chemistry. I've even seen certain customers out in the field doing some really unique things like supercapacitors or other 48-volt storage type devices. And then you see here, this is our engineering support team, of which I'm a member, Puya is a member, within a number of other individuals who are available to help you guys ensure that you are able to get what you need and enable these projects out in the field. So looking at our inverter models, we've already briefly talked about them. We do have the two models, the Sol-Ark 8K and the Sol-Ark 12K, and they're really very similar units. They can do a lot of the same things, pretty similar as far as the amount of power that they're able to output. I will say that, of course, the 12K can accept a little bit more solar into it, and it's able to output a little bit more continuous AC power. The real things that differentiate the two inverters is really twofold, I'll say. The first thing that's important to understand is this Sol-Ark 8K is a single unit solution, whereas our 12K can be stacked or paralleled. So if you have a situation where you've got a customer who has a large home they're trying to back up, it's going to take more than one unit, you're going to need to go with the 12K model because the 8K, you're not going to be able to stack them. The other thing to consider when you're sizing these products, even if you have a small initial load, if you have a customer who's looking to expand their home or expand their system in the future, makes a lot of sense to go with the 12K there because it does just give you that added flexibility of being able to stack or parallel the inverter. The other big difference between the two is the 8K comes with a 5-year standard warranty. You do have the option to purchase up to a 10-year warranty, but it does come with that 5-year standard. Whereas the 12K comes with a 10-year standard warranty. And both these units can be purchased in outdoor rated enclosures, so they can be put on the wall, whether it be inside or outside. They can take just about any environment and have that military ruggedness that we've already talked about a couple of times. And then both of these inverter models can be EMP hardened. So EMP stands for electromagnetic pulse. Talk a little bit more about that on the next slide. But two reliable inverters, just important to keep in mind those two key differences. And the main one being, if you think that there is some potential for future expansion, build that into your project, probably plan for a 12K if that is the case. So looking at our EMP hardening, so EMP, for those of you that don't know, like I said, stands for electromagnetic pulse, which is essentially a surge in energy that can damage electrical equipment, either totally wipe it out or take it off for some period of time. So we do offer an EMP hardened inverter that is able to withstand an electromagnetic pulse at up to, well over twice the military spec for EMP hardening. But with that inverter, in addition to the EMP hardened inverter that will protect your home or electrical system in the event of an EMP event, we'll also send you 40 ferrite suppressors that come for PV panels. So those are necessary to protect the PV panels themselves in the event of an EMP. So just because you buy our EMP hardened inverter doesn't necessarily mean you have to buy EMP hardened panels. We'll send you a piece of equipment that can be attached to those panels to provide that EMP protection. In addition, we'll send you 20 ferrite suppressors that come to protect appliances in your home. So very important, again, protecting that investment that your customer has up front. These suppressors will ensure that the appliances attached to the inverter will not be damaged as well in the event of an EMP. Because again, the inverter being hardened is absolutely necessary, but if you don't have either the equipment providing power to the inverter or the equipment off taking power from the inverter functioning, doesn't really do you a lot of good to have a functioning inverter otherwise. So we will kind of send a kit that'll protect the whole home. And then just a note here, if you do desire that EMP protection with battery backup, we do currently recommend that you go ahead and buy either a lead acid or AGM type of battery, because the lithium batteries that are out on the marketplace are still going to be susceptible to an EMP event due to the circuitry in the battery management system of those batteries. So do keep that in mind when sizing for an EMP hardened system. And here's just a really brief slide showing how those ferrite suppressors that I just mentioned are installed. The photo on the lower left and the arrow, the progression photo there, show installation of one of those suppressors on an appliance power cord. So pretty easy, it just snaps right around that thing, and you want to get it as close to the appliance as possible. And then similarly, you see on the lower right here, this is the ferrite suppressor on a third-party PV panel. And again, that just snaps right around the conductors of that panel. And we do suggest that you use a zip tie in addition to that ferrite suppressor, just to kind of give a little bit more resiliency to the elements outside, make sure that thing doesn't come loose. So again, our inverter is a Swiss Army knife of inverters, if you will. Maximum versatility. Like we've already talked about, you can be grid tied only, which does give you the option to initially use the inverter as a grid tied only solution and then add batteries later. So that's a really attractive option for customers who potentially don't have the capital all at one time to buy the whole energy storage solution at once. They can always buy the inverter and the panels now, set up their net metering agreement with their utility, and then add the batteries later for kind of a battery backup type mode. Tons of modes, which we're not going to get a ton into here, but we do have a ton of different modes that we can work under that will meet a solution for your customer. So whether that be they want to try to just zero out their meter, we have a mode for that. We also have modes for customers that have time of use rates or are on a demand type of energy rate. We have solutions built into the inverter just with some programming steps that can mitigate the cost for the customer using those modes. We're battery agnostic, like I mentioned. We can work with any 48-volt battery. Again, just need to make sure that it's 48 volts. And in addition to that, we are generator and PV panel agnostic. So long as your PV panels are strung together at less than 500 volts temperature corrected, the inverter is able to take that power without issue. And then similarly on the generator side, you just need to have a 122 40-volt generator, and we can interface with just about any generator that is available on the market. With those generators, we do offer an auto generator start feature. So as your batteries start to get drawn down in the event of a grid outage situation, we can program the inverter to automatically start the generator to kick it on and start supplying power to the inverter to both power loads in the home and charge the battery concurrently. And through that method, you kind of have some redundancy built into your battery backup, 2, maybe even 3 layers of redundancy, which is really nice for a customer, especially customers that are on grids that aren't very reliable and they can't be without power, or for a customer who just wants to live a totally off-grid lifestyle. Having that redundancy is going to be extremely important to maintaining the power supply to their home. Like we mentioned, we work with a number of different rapid shutdown manufacturers and brands. The 2 that we recommend most often are going to be the Tigo and the AP Smart, because those do have transmitters that can be powered directly by the inverter itself. However, we do work with other rapid shutdown solutions. If you have a solution that you're looking at and are unsure, I would just recommend that you go ahead and email us at support@solark.com, and one of our engineers will be able to get you an answer on whether or not your chosen piece of rapid shutdown equipment will work with our inverter and how to get that to work. So we do have AC and DC coupling options, like we mentioned. So that just means you can either retrofit an existing installation that already has an inverter by tying that inverter directly into our inverter, or you can just go ahead and tie the solar output directly into our inverter to be handled in that fashion. Either way, it just gives you, as the installer or as a homeowner, tons of different ways to bring in your solar power into the Sol-Ark to charge your batteries and provide power to critical loads in your home. And it makes it extremely easy to retrofit an existing system where you're not having to go rip out a bunch of equipment just so you can add equipment back in. It's a situation where you bolt our inverter up onto the wall, you pretty much take the output of your old system and can just tie it into our system, and it's as easy as that for getting that retrofitting done. We do have 20 kilowatts of peak power, so that's a pretty nice feature to have if you have a customer out there who's off-grid and wanting to run a small AC unit. We can start up those ACs with some of those higher surge currents. But again, if you're unsure on the size of the AC there, recommend that you go ahead and reach out to us to make sure that a single inverter will be able to start that AC, because we do see customers with 3.5 ton and larger ACs having issues trying to start those up with a single inverter in an off-grid or grid down type of situation. We offer live monitoring for full access, visibility, and control. And then again, 7-day-a-week engineering support live in person from North Texas. So please give us a call if you're having any issues with the inverter. So again, just digging a little bit into some of our features. We've talked a lot about the inverter as a hybrid solution, whether it's on-grid or off-grid, and kind of what you can do as far as bringing in the different types of power, AC or DC coupling, that's solar. We do use a transformerless DC design, which means our inverter is extremely efficient, whether you're AC coupling or DC coupling, and we'll kind of see the implications of that a little bit later on, comparing our inverter to some other inverters out on the market. Battery agnostic, again, 48 volts is all you need to ensure that you're able to use our inverter with battery. We do have grid support compliance, so you can look up all of our certifications on our website under our resources page. But just about any certification that is out there for interconnecting with the grid in particular regions or states, we've gone ahead and gotten that certificate, whether that be UL 1741 SA, Rule 21 for California, Rule 24 for California. We already have gotten those certifications or are literally days away from getting a few additional certifications that have come out here in the past few months. We've already talked about our 10-year standard warranty, extremely reliable system, and that's a true 10-year warranty. There aren't any funny games there where we say, hey, we can only give you the 50% of the initial cost of the inverter because you use the inverter for 5 years. No, it is truly, if you have your inverter fail on you at 9 years, 11 months, and 29 days, 30 days, we will replace that inverter for you, free of cost to you as a customer, provided it is something that was a manufacturing defect or something that was out of your control as far as the failure. We've already talked a little bit about our time of use and peak shaving modes for demand rates. So again, just multiple modes that we can utilize with the inverter to save you money as the customer, or for the installer to facilitate a project and make the finances work such that you're able to go ahead and provide that solution for your customers. And then something we haven't talked about, we are able to parallel, like we did mention, but we can do up to 8 units in a 120/240 installation. So that's small commercial scale or just very, very large residential scale, up to 8 inverters in that 120/240. And then if you're doing a 208 3-phase configuration, not an issue with our inverter. We can output true 3-phase with 3 inverters, but you can stack those inverters to be up to 9 inverters with a 3-phase type of system. So again, tons of power that we're able to provide through our system and meeting just about any type of project you're going to throw at it, as long as it is residential or small commercial. And then finally, we do have that world-class transfer time that we've talked about. It is UPS grade. It's 5.5 milliseconds. This is a typo on this slide. That spec did recently change. But 5.5 millisecond transfer time, which is UPS grade. You won't even notice that the grid went out in most instances. You might notice a small flicker of the lights, but barely perceptible. And none of your clocks will restart. None of your devices will reboot. So extremely convenient to have when your customers aren't even noticing that their grid's going out, except for maybe the notification that they get on their phone. Here is the inside of a unit. kind of showing the different places where we can tie in our power supplies into the inverter. So the left side of the unit, you can kind of cut the unit in half here, and I like to refer to the left side of the unit as our DC side, the right side of the unit as our AC side. But you can kind of see here on the very leftmost of the unit, this is the terminals where we will tie in our battery solution for the inverter. So that does utilize a 250 amp breaker there. Moving over, we have this electrical board here where we have two things I'll draw your attention to. One is specifically called out where it says up to 13 kilowatts of DC coupled solar, 4 strings. Those are our MPPT input. So that is where you would tie in your solar arrays directly into the unit. And kind of just to the left of that, we do have our pinouts for the different sensors and meters that you are able to use with the inverter in order to enable different types of work modes and different functionality with the inverter. So this is very well spelled out in our manual, where we go over that in a little bit more detail in some of our later or more advanced webinars. And then on the right side of the inverter here, you do see our 3 AC input/outputs, and those are named according to the typical or intended use case, not necessary to tie in or what the inverter name specifies, but it is the typical usage. So we have our grid, gen, and loads breaker on the right side here. And again, the grid breaker is typically where you tie in a grid interconnection. Generator breaker is where you would typically tie in either a generator or your AC coupled solar. And then that loads breaker is typically used as an output to your critical loads panel to go ahead and provide that constant power. And there you do see a unit all wired up. So pretty easy to follow there with that explanation. You do see those conductors all coming in. It's quite a nice looking unit when it is wired up in this fashion and done well. As we've mentioned, extremely fast transfer time. No resetting of clocks. If you have medical equipment tied to the your critical loads, that can quite literally save lives by not kicking off that equipment and having it kind of go through a reboot cycle. And then again, it's UPS grade for servers or different IT equipment that you might need to have a consistent, reliable power supply. And then just kind of comparing that to the Tesla Powerwall. The Tesla has a 2-second switch over transfer time, which will cause these types of things to reboot, to restart. You'll definitely notice the power go out for 2 seconds. Whereas with our inverter, again, it's 5.5 milliseconds, but still barely perceptible and still meeting that UPS grade. So extremely handy to have that type of transfer time with our inverter. It's an extremely powerful inverter. We can do up to 3 times more power than your typical Tesla Powerwall. So you can see here we can do that 20 kW of surge, and then the 9 kilowatts of continuous AC, and then an additional 3 kilowatts. As we're outputting that 9 kilowatts of AC, we can bring in a little bit more solar to go ahead and charge up your battery for the full 12 kilowatt nomenclature of the unit. Whereas you see with the Tesla Powerwalls, each one of those is going to be able to do 7 kilowatts of AC surge and then 5 kilowatts of continuous AC. So somewhere between 2 to 3 times as powerful as a Tesla Powerwall, depending on which specification you are most concerned with. But I will just say that that surge is extremely important, especially in an off-grid or grid down type of situation for starting up some of the larger appliances that people really can't do without. And here you can see what it would look like if you stacked 8 of our inverters for the max 12240 configuration versus how many Tesla Powerwalls you would need. If you pair our inverter with a lithium iron phosphate or LFP battery, which most all of our battery manufacturers are utilizing that type of chemistry, almost double the number of cycles as what you would get from a Tesla Powerwall, which is using a NMC chemistry. So that chemistry is just a little bit more unreliable, doesn't do quite as well as far as number of cycles, and is quite a bit more dangerous. So I'm sure that we've all seen videos of either a Tesla car or other electric car or inverter on fire, and how kind of when that stuff goes up, there's no putting it out. So the beauty of an LFP battery is it is extremely safe. It's all non-toxic chemicals. And again, the 6,000 cycles that you will get with a typical LFP battery. Pretty phenomenal value for the cost of those batteries compared to some of the other chemistries out on the market. As I mentioned earlier, we do have the ability to auto start a generator as long as that generator has a 2-wire start, which is an extremely useful feature to have where you're not having to go out and manually monitor and control your power system. So, most of our customers say, hey, I spent all this money on this battery or this energy backup system. I don't want to have to be going out there and manually adjusting things just because the power went out. So again, with our inverter, we have that auto start, and that is a feature that most of the inverters on the market do not currently have. And ironically, Generac being one of them that does not have the ability to auto start one of their own generators. So if you're worried about that, our inverter can do that, even with a generator. So here's our comparison chart. We kind of refer to it as our Christmas tree chart sometimes, but it's really designed to just give an apples to apples comparison of our solution compared to other inverters that are out and available on the marketplace. And we try to be extremely fair when we're doing this comparison. So I always like to point out that if you look at our Sol-Ark 8K, our older model there, you will see some red. We're extremely fair when we're going about this comparison. We're going to be honest with what our inverter can do versus what other inverters can do. And so if there's something that a different inverter does better than us, we're going to give them the kudos. We'll give them the green indicator on their specification for that, and credit where credit is due. But all that said, I think that whenever you do kind of go through this comparison, what you do see is, especially for the value, our inverter is a phenomenal option. The things that I really like to point out here when you're looking at this chart is going to be the efficiency of the inverter, whether that be on grid, so straight from PV to your loads and out to the meter for a net metering type of a grid arrangement, or in a off-grid or time of use type of situation where you're trying to utilize your batteries regularly to zero out your electric meter during times when there is no solar. Regardless of which type of situation you find yourself in, our inverter is extremely efficient, class leading in the second category, time of use or off-grid, and right up there with the best performers in an on-grid PV to AC efficiency type of arrangement. So again, you can see PV straight to AC, we are able to achieve a 96.5% efficiency, whereas the only other inverters that can kind of compete with that would be the SolarEdge, which are able to do with some of their optimization to get there, and then also the AC coupled solutions such as the power walls, Sonin, Enphase. Those all do extremely well in that type of arrangement, and in some cases you can see they're even beating us on the efficiency metrics by a percentage point or so. But then when you start looking at the time of use or off-grid type of arrangement, so again, think trying to zero out your meter during the evening hours, during the grid being down, our inverter only loses 7% of efficiency. So the PV, or the amount of power that you're bringing in from the PV on your roof or out in your ground mount, you're going to capture 93% of that power directly into power your loads. Whereas when you start comparing that to other options on the marketplace, you can really see, especially with the other DC transformerless and AC coupled inverter options out there, we do extremely well in terms of our efficiency of the inverter. So what that translates to at the end of the day is dollar savings, because more efficiency means you can get away with having less solar panels installed and less battery backup installed compared to some of these other options where a lot of that power, unfortunately, is just being lost as heat or other inefficiencies within the inverter. And then the other two things that I quickly like to point out that I think our inverter is extremely unique on is going to be, or extremely strong in rather, is going to be the warranty. So again, a 10-year standard warranty with our 12K, which is kind of class leading. You see a lot of the other inverters have something similar or less than that warranty. And then the ability to go ahead and parallel stack with an outdoor enclosure is an extremely effective solution for a lot of people who have certain types of situations that they're trying to meet that most inverters just can't do. So an extremely versatile, powerful solution. Again, kind of the theme of this presentation. And here you do see just some example pricing here comparing a lithium iron phosphate battery, or LFP battery as they're sometimes called, to what it would cost to go ahead and get a similar capacity of AGM PCC 230s, which is a battery that we manufacture here. Again, it's a good solution, or I'm sorry, for a battery backup or EMP hardened type of solution. Whereas just because of the cycle count, we might go ahead and recommend the LFP batteries if you are going to be cycling those batteries daily. So here is kind of a pretty cool case study of a very large home being totally backed up by 3 Sol-Ark inverters and 6 Fortress eVault batteries. So that works out to 30 kilowatts of DC coupled solar. You could actually do a little bit more than that with the 3 units. You could do up to 39 kilowatts of DC coupled solar. Continuous power output from that solar and battery is going to be 27 kilowatts of AC power with up to 50 kilowatts of surge power. And then they've got 111 kilowatt hours of battery backup there. So pretty impressive system there. Backing up a very large residential home, backing the whole thing up with 3 of our units. So pretty impressive what they've been able to do with 3 units here. And then looking at a smaller home, using just 1 of our units with 1 Fortress eVault battery. Again, we can do up to 13 kilowatts with that to output the 9 kilowatts of AC. And then that Fortress eVault would give you 18.5 kilowatt hours of storage. But just looking at what does that translate to, you can kind of see on the left here some different appliances. It could be on your critical loads panel being powered by the single inverter here. So you certainly, in that situation, you're going to have the fridges and the deep freezes being powered, so you're not losing the investment in whatever food your homeowner has purchased. Certainly, a small AC unit is runnable, and I always like to say, whoever says that an AC unit is not a critical load clearly wasn't from Texas or from the South by extension, because certainly if you're in a warmer climate, that AC unit is definitely going to be something that you're going to want to have. But you just need to be careful. Again, like I mentioned earlier, you don't want to put a 3.5 ton with a single inverter, because you will have that startup current necessary to start that AC unit exceeding what a single inverter solution can do. Coffee, of course, is a pretty substantial load. People are sometimes surprised to learn that. But if you're anything like me, you have to have your coffee in the morning. So pretty impressive, all the different appliances and even some of the things that some people might not consider absolutely critical that a single inverter solution is able to power in a grid down type of situation. The inverter does have the ability to enable or achieve rapid shutdown with a combination of our inverter and some third-party equipment. So again, we already talked about the Tigo and AP smarts, but in our manual, there's some pretty good diagrams and explanation around interfacing our inverter with that equipment to come up with a whole rapid shutdown / emergency stop solution with our inverter. So an extremely useful feature to have to save you a little bit of money and to make the installation just a little bit easier for you guys out in the field. We already did talk about our PowerView web-based monitoring platform. So again, this gives you access for remote monitoring of the inverter, as well as the ability to remotely change parameters in the inverter itself. And this is a video that's taken directly off of our YouTube page. It's a pretty long one. It's about 15 minutes, so we're obviously not going to watch it here. You guys can kind of just see what the overview screen looks like. I would just invite you to go ahead and jump on our YouTube page. Just type in Sol-Ark in YouTube's search feature, and we have a number of videos that'll kind of go through the PowerView platform there. So a lot of people ask us, hey, what am I getting with this inverter? What comes in the box? So this is, again, all spelled out in our manual, but pretty straightforward. Of course, you're going to get your inverter, a given, when you buy the inverter, and that's shown by label J down here at the bottom. But with that inverter, we are going to send you, of course, any mounting hardware that is necessary. So this French cleat here, shown by label H, will come in the box with it, as well as a hex wrench to go ahead and open up these screws on the front of the unit if you needed to get in there for any reason at all. In addition, we will send you a Wi-Fi dongle, which is used to connect the inverter to the internet, enabling that remote monitoring that we've talked about a couple of times now. We'll also send you a Cat5 cable, shown by F here, for any communications that are necessary if you're paralleling inverters or have a battery with closed loop communications from one of our battery partners. you can use that Cat5 cable in order to go ahead and achieve that. In addition, we'll send you battery toroids and a battery temperature sensor, which are used depending on the type of battery you have as far as a temperature sensor to measure or make adjustments to the battery charge rates and just enable optimal battery health depending on the conditions that the battery is in. And then finally, we'll send you a limiter sensor, which is necessary for our limited to home mode and some other types of modes that we offer. In the box, we do send our 5/8 inch CTs standard. So if you do need larger CTs, so if you're trying to put these CTs around large aluminum feeds into a main service panel or a bus bar, you will need to reach out to us to purchase larger CTs, or you can always use a third-party CT. Just give our support team a call to discuss how to go about that process. More than happy to help walk you through that. We do have, again, on our YouTube channel, tons of content around training, and you can always reach out to us after you attend one of these webinars if you would like a recording. But again, very easy to get trained up on this thing. You can also give our support team a call, and we're more than happy to help walk you through a potential installation or programming of a unit, certainly for your first one, just to give you that level of comfort to go ahead and do it on your own in the future. So again, kind of the key takeaways that I'm hoping you guys have gotten from this presentation today. An extremely versatile solution, right? So we talked about it can work in just about any situation that you throw at it, and it makes retrofitting an already existing solution extremely easy. It's simple, was originally designed with a DIYer in mind. So we included everything in a single inverter, the charge controller, the DC inputs, the AC outputs. It's all integrated into one box, making installation a breeze. And we'll even send you most of the sensors and other pieces of equipment that you need in order to interface with other equipment. Flexible in that we can work with any 48-volt battery and almost any generator that you want to utilize with our inverter. And we do have the ability to parallel multiple generators to meet even the highest power-hungry applications. Extremely efficient in our round-trip efficiency for the inverter. So again, what that translates to is just less that you're having to purchase either as an installer or as a customer to get the same amount of power to your loads on the other side of the inverter. So extremely important to look at that high efficiency number when you are sizing a system. Very reliable, long-lasting piece of equipment. So again, we've got that 10-year standard warranty, and what I always like to tell people, we did test that 10-year warranty with highly accelerated life testing. But I always like to make mention of, again, I already talked about that's a true 10-year warranty. So if we're confident to give you that 10-year warranty on the equipment, you can feel very confident as a customer that it's going to last well beyond 10 years, right? If we're telling you failure at 9 years, 11 months means a new inverter, we feel very confident that the system is going to last well beyond that 10-year mark where we've warrantied it for. And if you pair that with an LFP battery, that is over 6,000 cycles, which works out to about 27 years of daily use with those batteries. So an extremely long-lasting system where you're not having to come in and gut everything and retrofit it 5 years down the line. So you can feel very confident in the investment you make that it'll provide return for you for an extremely long period of time. We're compliant. We've already mentioned a number of the certifications we have. And I would just like to make mention here, if there's a certification that your utility is requiring and you're not sure if the Sol-Ark has, just go ahead and give us a call. We're more than happy to go dig up any certification documentation that we might have, or talk to your utility to understand what might be required and provide that certification. And then finally, we have world-class customer support. We've talked about it a few times now. Live engineering support 7 days a week. Call us, email us, text us, whatever you prefer. We will get back to you same day in almost all circumstances. Unless you call us right at the end of the day, there's almost 100% that we're going to give you a call back that same day to support whatever issue that you've got going on. And I always like to kind of issue a challenge at this point and say, you know, I talk a lot in these webinars about how phenomenal our customer service is, how responsive we are. So put us to the test. We'll give you the number here at the end of the presentation. We'll give you the email address. Send us an email. Give us a call. Make sure somebody answers. Make sure somebody emails you back. The one exception I will provide to that is I do ask that you don't call on a Saturday or Sunday. We do reserve that time for emergencies only. But certainly, if you just want to put that to the test, feel free to give us a call any other point in time during the week and ensure that we're putting our money where our mouth is, having somebody answer and get back to you. And then where can you buy the inverter? Here are just some, certainly not all, of our distribution partners that we have out there. So certainly there's a high likelihood that we have a local distribution partner where you're located. If you need to verify that or you want to check on that, you can always reach out to us, and we're more than happy to give you a list of any distribution partners in your area. In addition, we have a number of distribution partners that have online stores. So just a few of those would be Practical Preppers, Alta East Store, Renview, Northern Arizona Wind and Sun. So even if you're unable to get kind of local distribution worked out, we can certainly give you an online distribution partner that can ship you the system directly. With that, I'd like to say thank you. Really hope this has been beneficial for you guys. Again, you can see our number here. We'll go ahead and throw it in the chat, as well as our support and sales email addresses. If you have any questions, feel free to either reach out to us at this phone number, extension 1 for sales, extension 2 for support, or use those email addresses to reach out to one of our team members and get a response. At this point in time, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you guys. So if you have any questions that you'd like answered, you will have the chance to ask those. So bear with me for just a moment while I go ahead and do that. So you guys should be all unmuted now. I do see there was a question asked by Dave in regards to using the Ford F-150 Lightning EV. So yeah, very, very new piece of equipment out there on the marketplace. Pretty exciting. I will say we haven't been able to do any testing with backfeeding an electric vehicle into the Sol-Ark. So the answer to that question would be that I don't know as of yet. We're going to need to go ahead and do some testing on that. But certainly as that solution becomes more and more widespread, as more and more EVs integrate that into their cars, I certainly expect our company is always willing to adapt and make changes to the way the inverter works. We will have some solution enabled that will allow that power to be integrated with our inverter. Again, we're all about versatility, flexibility. If you have that option available to you, we want to allow that option as a way to integrate into our inverter.
Can we?
Hi, Dylan. This is Devanand Maste from Trinidad and Tobago. I did contact you about a project I have with integrating your inverters and our electric charging points. I have an electric vehicle charger, which is a level 2, rated at 9.6 kilowatts. Maximum current draw is 40 amps. Would your 12K arc be able to accommodate that?
Right. So with a single inverter, again, the max continuous AC output is 9 kW, which works out to 37.5 amps. So your level 2 charger there, Devanan, would be a little bit oversized for the single inverter. Now, of course, if you could bring down the charge level of that charger, I know some of them are programmable in that way. You could certainly use it.
This one is programmable. It can be reduced a little bit.
Right. Yes, sir. So absolutely, you could use that. I would just say, drop that charge current down to something lower than 37.5 if you're going to be intending to use this in an off-grid or grid down type of situation, and we'll work with it just fine. If you were to go full bore with that thing, you would likely overload the inverter.
Okay.
Thank you for the question, Devin.
Yeah, no problem. I will follow the application for the dealership in distributor in Trinidad and Tobago. Okay.
Thank you.
The batteries that you have, the EV volts in them, what is the kilowatt hours capacity on those batteries? The range from?
Which batteries is that now?
So on this slide, you're using some batteries. I think those are the batteries that you use in the slides.
These batteries here, the Fortress batteries?
Yes, Fortress. I just trying to remember the name of the battery. Yeah, those.
Yes, sir. So yeah, a single one of these Fortress E-Vaults here will do 18.5 kilowatt hours of capacity. Keep in mind, with an LFP battery, you're going to want to, at most, go down to about an 80% depth of discharge. So in reality, the usable capacity of that battery would be about 14 to 15 kilowatt hours. It's about the most you get out of a single Fortress E-Vault there.
Okay, no problem.
Could we explore when you talked about using or interfacing with any generator today? Um, I'm thinking about, say, a 7 or 8 kilowatt unit that you'd buy at a big box store. How would you interface with that? Would you have a standard like this L1430 cord that would link it up? And then you're saying you have an automatic 2-wire generator start output function, but is there a way that you might already have the ability to interface with the existing F-150 hybrid that's at dealers today?
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for the question, Dave. So right, yeah, I think if you could plug that output of the F-150, so long as it was 240 volt, 120 240, it would be able to tie directly into the gen input of the Sol-Ark. So yeah, using these plugs, the L1430 plugs, like you've kind of called out here, we do see that pretty regularly, where we'll have a homeowner wire that plug directly into the generator input of the Sol-Ark, and then they'll go ahead and with kind of the small portable generators, start that unit up, plug it into that plug, and through that means pass power back into the inverter. So if that F-150 Lightning works in the same manner, I would suspect that you are able to just go ahead and plug that thing directly into the inverter through that means and provide power back into the inverter. Because at the end of the day, the inverter is not going to actually know that, hey, this is coming from, a battery-based EV as opposed to a generator. It's just going to see, 240 volt AC power coming in. Kind of my hesitancy to give you a firm answer is just, again, that we haven't tested that functionality yet because we don't have the equipment here locally to do so. But certainly as it becomes more widespread, I have the utmost confidence that we will. But I can certainly follow up with you, Dave, go kind of talk to our most senior engineers and see if they foresee any issues with utilizing that F-150 to pass power into the inverter. And if there are any pitfalls with that, I'll be sure to follow up with you.
Yeah, you have my email, right? Because I'd like to interact on that. I'm signed up for your subsequent seminars, and that's actually my main thrust and focus, because you could do with that storage a fairly inexpensive microgrid home system.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's a good sized battery, certainly, and a lot of power that it can input. So again, I'll follow up with you. I do have your email through
Okay,
your
great.
signing up for these webinars, so I can get you kind of hopefully a more concrete answer there on that here in the next few hours, or certainly before the next webinars. I'll ask for you.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Anything else I can help you guys with today? Any other questions?
You say the inverters can be configured to provide three-phase output, right?
Yes, sir.
So they could also say they could. I know they could serve as a pass-through for 240 volts out to 240, but would it allow the three-phase interconnection in the same manner, the pass-through?
I'm sorry, Devin. Can you repeat that question? So you're wondering about passing through power with a three-phase grid?
Yeah. So if you're doing a grid connection that is has a three-phase supply.
Okay, yes, sir. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You're able to pass through three-phase power. There are some nuances that we'll go into a little bit more in our more advanced webinars around three-phase 208 power with the inverter. The inverter does only have per inverter 2 inputs, so you're only able to do 2 of the phases with a single inverter. So really that's where we say if you want to get the full balanced 3-phase power, you really are looking at a 3 inverter minimum system.
Right.
But certainly, so long as you do have you can really even do it with 2 inverters. You just have an unbalanced phase there that's going to be able to output a little bit more power than the other 2 phases. But certainly with 3 inverters, that's true balanced 3-phase output or input, and so you are able to pass through power in that arrangement, and again do some pretty impressive amount of power to your critical loads or your loads in general.
Yeah, it's a very attractive. As I heard the other person talk about, it's a good attractive option for microgrid solutions as well. Something I was looking at.
Yes, sir.
So Dylan, yeah, if you could send me your contact info, I just put in the Q&A some links.
Oh,
that-
very good. Thank you, David.
So cut and paste those before we leave there. And there's a media kit on the existing Pro Power that's available just in the hybrid. And the cool thing about that is, you know, it has a generator on board. It's a hybrid. So while the battery's much smaller, you know, you have this mobile 26-gallon gas tank. It's a fuel injected, very efficient, very quiet generator with a huge amount of power. And then the Lightning would have probably at least 100 kilowatt hour battery available on it.
Right. Yeah. No, that's, yeah, it's an awesome solution that, again, it's just going to become more and more widespread. So it's something that if we don't already have the ability to easily integrate with, like I said, in the very near future, we will be developing a solution for that because, you know, again, I'm a broken record at this point, but the versatility and the ease of integration is something that we believe really strongly in on making easy for you guys as the installer or as the end user. So it'll be something that we do quite a bit of research in the very near future, if I had to guess. And then, Jackie, I did see that you had a question around warranty. Does it cover repairs and replacement if the repair isn't possible? And if so, how does that work? So yes, absolutely. We do have a number of field replaceable parts in the inverter that we're able to go ahead and send you either for you as the end user or the installer to go ahead and make that repair out in the field to save money. If we're unable to make that repair in the field, if it is a warranty claim, at that point in time, we would send you a box, a shipping label, whatever was necessary to send that unit back to our North Texas headquarters to either do a repair, or sometimes we do offer the ability to go ahead and do a swap depending on the situation. So it is kind of a case-by-case basis there, but certainly if it is a repair that is a warranty item, that will all be covered by Sol-Ark to get it shipped back and then to ship it back to you as the end user. Absolutely.
Well, thank you.
Dylan, just one more question before you go.
Sure, yes, sir.
In regards to the level 3 chargers, fast chargers, how would you configuring this in a parallel set of units be able to handle that, or does your inverter something you have later down the line might be able to support that?
I'm sorry, Devin, can you repeat that question?
Okay, I'm looking at fast chargers, these level 3 chargers, right? How would you go about configuring the inverters for that? Would it be required that you have 2 or 3 inverters running parallel mode to support that?
Right, yeah. To get all 3 phases, you're going to need at least 2 inverters there, and likely 3 would make more sense depending on the power requirement of that charger. So certainly, what I would recommend for you, Devin, is to go ahead and take a look at our manual. Let me go ahead and throw a link in here for that, and I'll also give you guys some links for reaching out to us. So this is I just threw a link to our manual in the chat. That is a pretty good resource there for you guys to go ahead and read through, and it'll go into detail on the 3-phase a little bit more for you, Devin. And in addition, I would suggest that you sign up for our 201, 301, 401 webinars. We do go into more detail around 3-phase during those webinars.
All right.
So hopefully that'll answer some of your questions there. And then again, guys, I'm just going to go ahead and throw some contact information into the chat here. So if you guys have any further questions that come up that you want to get answered over email or to give us a phone call, please reach out to us. We love talking to you guys. Again, I'll put my email in here as well. If you guys want to just reach out to me directly out for any of these things, feel free. Any more questions, guys? Well, if not, I'm going to go ahead and end our webinar today. Again, I hope this was useful for you guys. Encourage you to sign up for the 201 and 301 that we'll have going on later this week. Let me go ahead and throw, just as a last link in here, a link where you guys can sign up for these webinars. So it's just handy for you. but certainly appreciate you guys attending today, and we hope to see you at a future webinar or to hear from you via phone or email. Have a good rest of your day, guys. Take care.